What are we starting with this week, boys?
A wee review.
No.
A
Spotify.
wee.
No.
A
A
comment.
wee email.
That's right.
A comment.
A comment.
Yes.
Yes, well done. So this comment is on our left-handed video. If you go and watch that, if you want to learn about the left-handed people. So this comment says, since the right side of the brain controls the left side of the body and the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body, only left-handed people are in their right minds. Very good, right? Very funny, I think. Shall we start the show?
Yes.
Let's start the show.
Hello and welcome to SCI GUYS, the show where we talk about the crazy, weird, and wonderful stories from the science world. I'm Corey, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Jamp and Luke Cutforth.
Hello.
Why, hello there.
This week, we're talking about a Chimp-human man and Humanzees.
So me and Luke. I love that we get to talk about ourselves. This is
Yeah.
the best episode ever.
The science of us.
The science of us.
I mean, you're not too far off.
Thank
maybe.
you.
I hope.
Thank you.
Anyway, you probably you probably learned in school that species can breed amongst themselves. I mean, you probably learned that in life as well, right? Species can breed amongst themselves. It's pretty important for most of them, right?
Yes.
To be fair, I have not learned that yet. I have no evidence that is true from the first-hand perspective.
So you've also probably heard that species can't breed outside of themselves and produce fertile offspring, right?
That's in the definition of a species.
Well,
So
I mean,
by definition, they can't do that.
yeah, which
I've
is
heard this.
I mean, it's not a great definition for a species because, like, I mean, some of them can do it, some of them a little bit. We've spoken about this.
I
about-
know.
Yeah,
The wheel of wolves or something.
it was birds, but
Close enough.
clines is the word. is the
Hey, the wheel of wolves is much better.
like-
Science needs to work on its branding.
I'm not gonna lie, the wheel of wolves is fantastic. However, I don't think it actually applies to any known wolf species.
There's like a range of well, maybe not necessarily species, maybe species. There's a range around your species that you can.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, in some cases, yeah.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not a hard rule. But most times, if you've got two similar species that produce an offspring together, even though they're different species, that offspring will generally be infertile. Like, you know, a mule or Luke, perhaps, or a zonkey.
You said Luke twice.
Guys. I might not be in the room, but I am here.
Shut up, Zonkey.
Yeah, so a zonkey is much like Luke, not
pretty
going to
cool.
have any children of its own.
Oh,
What?
Are they born sterile?
Yeah, they're born sterile.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'll definitely beat both of you to having children, so you can take that right back.
I mean, you say that assuming I don't have a child already.
He hides them in the
assume zero.
walls.
No.
Oh God! Whoa!
Insulation.
It's just like in Snowpiercer, right? You use the kids as parts of the train. I just chuck them in the walls.
Got a house made of children.
Oh dear.
This one's called Hugo. He lives in the wall. So
They're all called
Simpsons
Hugo.
reference.
They all live in the wall.
I got that. Oh, no, that one don't get past me.
yeah, I didn't pass you. So so what separates Zonkey zebra? What separates donkey zebra hybrids from human-chimp hybrids?
There aren't any human-chimp hybrids
You're gosh darn right, but why not?
Because we can't.
it wouldn't get past an ethics committee.
No, Luke's got it right. Like, no, like actually,
Is that it?
yeah. I mean, as far as I'm aware, there's not necessarily any strong evidence to say that we absolutely cannot have a Chimp-human man or a Humanzee. There's no like strict evidence to say it absolutely cannot happen.
Human zebra donkey.
It's really you could maybe do it in China, but the rest of the world has got pretty strict regulations on not doing that. I mean, we could talk about the ethics of it later on once you know more about the whole situation. But yeah, a Humanzee. It's
See, I thought it was like impossible, even if you tried. Like you wouldn't
Yeah.
try. But
you
I
wouldn't.
but I think I don't know where I heard that, but I heard that it was impossible.
That's probably just what they tell people,
So they don't try.
so they don't try it.
It's like,
Yeah.
no
You know how you tell a kid?
No point.
You know how you tell kids. Now, if you make a face and it gets caught in the wind, it'll get stuck like that.
I was terrified of that.
If you try to have a child with a chimp,
Yeah.
it won't work.
It'll get
Who
stuck like
needs-
that.
No,
Who needs that lie to not then do that?
someone. Well, actually, do you know what? Look, we'll find out someone that actually does need it because that's what today's story is about.
Oh, no.
No, yeah, honestly. Speaking of that lie, by the way, of telling kids that their faces will stick, I believed it for a long time. And
So did I.
I'll tell you why I believed it. Because I once heard on the radio in the car someone talking to someone else on the radio, as they do, and the host was saying, "Oh, so when you're talking, you've got to talk without moving your face, right? That's how it works." And the person responded saying, "Yeah, I've got to talk without moving my face. That's how it works," sort of thing. And in my head, I was like, "This man had his face stuck by the wind. That's how it happened because he can't move his face when he talks."
Yeah.
It was only at the age of maybe like too old, either the end of my teens or in my 20s, that I realized
Oh
that.
my God.
I mean, I knew your face couldn't get stuck by the wind, but I remember that situation and realized that was probably just a ventriloquist they were talking to. So you can't move your face when you're a ventriloquist because you don't look like someone else is talking.
I can't believe that.
Wow.
I know I would have done the same thing.
I just didn't think about it. I hadn't thought about it for a long time. So let's get into hybrids. Do you guys know about some animal hybrids? Can you name some for me?
A liger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liger. Luke, you got any?
Deborah.
I know Deborah. She lives across the road.
I'm sorry to any Deborah's listening.
Sorry, what is a donkey zebra cross called again?
Well, a zonkey or a Deborah, yeah.
Or a Deborah.
Yeah.
A zonkey called Deborah.
That would be just incredibly confused.
Can you have like dolphs or fogs?
You're thinking of wolfins, and
What? Wolfins? Wolves and dolphins?
Oh, dog wolves. Okay, I was like, what's
you're thinking of a dolph. I thought you were trying to say wolf.
I
like
thought you were
wolfin.
giving a nickname to a dolphin.
No, yeah, a wolfin is a whale dolphin. I think
I thought it was a wolf dolphin. I was
No.
like, how do they get close enough to each other?
They're pushing the range there.
no.
A whale and a dolphin.
Yeah, like dolphin. Orca whales are dolphins, aren't they?
I guess so.
Yeah. So yeah, right.
Yeah. They look very similar. Sorry, I just
when you say whale, I'm thinking of a whale.
I
I'm
imagine
thinking
the
of
blue whale.
like a blue whale.
a blue
And
whale.
a dolphin.
I think a dolphin could probably climb inside a blue whale.
Well, exactly. It's the same problem with like, how did Hagrid get made?
His dad magicked himself in Gorgio,
Uh,
or he climbed inside and just went for it himself.
Oh God.
Like
oh, Corey, I didn't need okay, look, I was reading those and I did all the thinking, Corey. I didn't need you to do the thinking for me. I was just making a reference to the size difference between a whale and a dolphin. I didn't need you to then suggest that Hagrid's dad spaffed one out inside a dolphin.
I didn't need to hear.
Sorry,
any of that.
Hagrid's dad spaffed one out inside Hagrid's mum, not inside of a dolphin. Oh God, that got so much
Who's
worse.
to say Hagrid's
bringing
mum
it
isn't
back.
a dolphin?
we're bringing it back to our first episode where we were talking our hidden pilot episode where we were talking about
Now
a
we just
dolphin
need to
spaffing one out for a lady.
now we need to get a chimpanzee and a dolphin together,
A chimpanzee.
and also that man who had sex with a dolphin and whoever had sex with the chimpanzee just need to maybe meet up.
Wait, what? No, it wasn't a man that had sex with a dolphin. It was the dolphin that tried to have sex with the lady.
There's
is
also
it a
a
lady?
Netflix documentary about a man who had like a sexually intimate relationship with a dolphin.
I'm thinking of
I'm
that.
sure. I'm sure a man has probably name an animal, and I'm sure a man has probably tried to have sex with it at some point in
No,
human
I think,
history.
but in this documentary, the lady dolphin was instigating it
Please.
with
Yeah,
the man.
well, that makes sense. As we know,
Yeah.
if you listen back to it was our pilot episode. It's our first bonus episode over on patreon.com/SCI GUYS.
Yeah,
Dolphins can get horny for people.
they can
Yeah.
indeed.
I don't know how. I don't know why, but they do. They do be doing that. So
What has
Right.
this episode become?
I don't know. I was just asking you guys for some hybrid animals. I've said wolfins. We've
I'm
got
so
ligers.
sorry.
We've got what did you say, Luke? You said a Deborah. Now
And Hagrid.
you might have
He is
and
a hybrid.
Hagrid.
Love
Sure.
Deborah.
You might have.
Hagrid's infertile. That's so sad.
Okay. Moving on. Have you noticed something? So there's Deborahs and there's Zonkeys, but Wait, hold on. Yeah, there's Debras and there's Zonkeys.
Yeah.
But what's the difference between a Debra and a Zonkey?
Whether the Debra, whether the dolphin was dolphin, so whether the zebra was male or the zebra was female.
Yeah, that's right. So let's use a zebra. No, a Zonkey has a zebra father and a donkey mother. So the dad comes first, essentially. As with all.
So the hybrid
with all
the hybrid name depends on which animal is the male versus the female.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And is
Yeah,
that
the
does
male
that make a
comes
different thing?
Well, in some cases. So I think there are some. It's either some Zonkeys or some mules that can, or some hinnies. So a hinny is essentially like the mule equivalent, right? A hinny is a horse and a donkey, right?
Yes.
And a mule is also a horse and a donkey, but one of them, they've got different parents. I think some female mules might be fertile, or some female Zonkeys might be fertile.
Interesting.
So,
With other horses or donkeys, or with each other?
not with each other, because the males aren't so with
of course.
with the one of the parent species.
Right.
So but then obviously you'd have to continue this sort of population of mules or Zonkeys or lions or ligers or whatever. You'd still have to maintain a population of the parent species, right?
So if you had a female horse donkey
Yes.
that was fertile, and then the female horse donkey mated with a horse, and they made like a horse donkey, how long before it just becomes a horse again?
How long until?
That's a nice horse sound you just made, man.
I mean, it depends, doesn't it? I mean, at some point, it's the actual donkey DNA is going to be so minuscule in there that it doesn't really make a difference. Bear in mind, this
Yeah.
isn't for all sort of animals that the female is always fertile. It's just in some cases, some of the females might be fertile. It's just,
Interesting.
but as a general rule, saying that the offspring are infertile, you're probably going to be right when it comes to animals, right?
Are there any? So we have ligers. Are there any tie-ons or something to that effect?
I mean, I think lots of kids have their tie on. No,
And
there's
businessmen.
that.
There's tie-ins. Yeah, probably. I assume. So moving on. If you what are some requirements if you want to make a hybrid between two animals? Why can't we have, as Luke said, a wolf dolphin,
A wolfin.
a wolfin, whatever, man. I don't know.
It's like how long ago the species separated,
Well, I mean,
or how much they diverged in like how different their genomes are. Oh, and number of chromosomes.
yeah. So you're those are all what you're getting at there is essentially how different they are sort of genetically. So the number of chromosomes is important, but it's not incredibly important. For example, horses and donkeys have different numbers of chromosomes, I'm fairly sure, or zebras and donkeys have different numbers of chromosomes, but they can still produce offspring. That's the reason that the offspring are infertile, because they have the wrong number of chromosomes. Let's say that a horse has like 48 chromosomes and a donkey has 46, right? Because they come in pairs, bear in mind, right? Let's say they've got 48 and 46. The offspring will have 47, which makes them, because they get because you basically get half your chromosomes from each parent, so they've got 47. So that means that when their cells come to divide, in order to make their sex cells, the process doesn't work properly, and they're infertile. Right? So the number of chromosomes is different. So yeah, they've got to be somewhat similar in that sense, because if you've got too many different chromosomes and all the genes don't match up and stuff, you're going to be probably a little bit not okay as an animal.
Yeah.
You might not survive. And yeah, I guess how long ago they diverged, how similar they are. Yeah, that's really important too, because it's going to be really difficult even just logistically, for a wolf and a dolphin to go at it, because they're very different animals, right? So they've got to be similar in terms of
Anatomy,
and also similar in terms of sort of, I guess, phylogeny. They've got to be similar in terms of like where they've diverged from. So you can't make, say, a
lion
wolf,
and a cat.
sure, or a wolf and a lion, right?
Sure.
Because they're very genetically different. So there's got to be lots of differences. But say an African elephant and an Asian elephant, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, probably fine.
That's fine. You could probably do that. They did it once. Died after 12 days because its tummy got sore.
That was it.
Yeah, I mean, it was an intestinal infection. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was just like, I'm sore. I'm checking out. Bye.
So, when it comes to humans and chimpanzees, chimpanzees are our closest living relative. Bonobos have kind of joined them recently as well, actually. Bonobos, chimpanzees, close living relatives of humans. That doesn't mean that we evolved from chimps, by the way. Some people say that we evolved from chimps. It's a misunderstanding of how evolution works. What it means is that
Did we share a common ancestor?
we've got a common ancestor. So there was something. If you go far back enough, what essentially happens is you've got this animal that's not quite a chimp and it's not quite a human, but
It's somewhere in between.
well,
kind
not
of.
necessarily somewhere in between. It's somewhere before,
Yes.
right? So what happened to that animal is that its lineage sort of diverged, and one of the branches went off, and along with becoming a lot of other things, became humans, and the other one branched off and became chimps. Right? They evolved into those. So that's what it means. That's what we mean when we say that we've got sort of they're our closest living relative. We don't come from chimps. We both come from the same place.
Like siblings.
Yeah, exactly. It's
yeah.
like, if your sibling is your closest living relative, that doesn't mean your sibling is your parent. It means that you've got the same parents.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
You and a chimp have the same daddy. So we have about 98% of our DNA is the same, which is it's a lot. 98% is high. And so we are fairly similar. And you might think that, well, we've like human interbreeding with other species, that wouldn't happen. But it did happen quite a lot until all the other species went ahead and died out on us. Do you know what species we might have got it on with?
Neanderthals.
Yeah, Neanderthals.
That's it.
We loved
I don't know how to say
yeah, we loved going at them.
Oh.
In fact, I think we've got quite a bit of a lot of people have got quite a bit of Neanderthal DNA. I think it might be around about 4 to 8%, maybe somewhere. That's not a hard number. Definitely look it up. But a significant portion of some people's DNA is Neanderthal DNA. But Neanderthal DNA at this point is essentially, because it's so sort of common in the human genome, it's essentially kind of like human DNA at this point, But that exists because we interbred with them so much. And there were other, I think there were other species, hominid species that shared the planet with us over our sort of history. And we interbred with some of them as well. We just, we loved it, You can't stop us.
Sharing the love.
And so the sort of, it is not unbelievable for humans or hominids to go ahead and interbreed with similar species. And actually, apparently, we think that when chimps and humans split, or sort of the ancestors of them split, they kind of came back together again to interbreed for a bit still.
Oh.
Even after they split off, there was still there was still a little bit of interbreeding here and there, and then they split off properly again after that. It's like going through a divorce, and then you've still got a little bit of a friends with benefits situation there, and then you finally cut all ties and move to the other side of the world.
I'll Skype.
You okay, man? That's quite. That's quite serious.
So yeah, apparently I've read this paper that said that human chimpanzee, the times when at the point where they split off in different species, that was that could be about 6.3 million years ago. Which isn't that long. It's not that long. 6.3 million years.
Things.
Yeah.
Pretty recent.
It's fairly recent, isn't it? But it could have been more recently. And the issue is that there is essentially like there's some difficulty with understanding exactly when it was, because what we're essentially doing there is looking at the sort of essentially how you do it, right? Is by looking at sort of something called genetic divergence. Essentially, the number of you're looking at all the differences between the genomes of the two species at the sort of individual level, like looking at the entire code and being like, this part of this code is different. And if you assume that and there's an average number of changes over time, then you can say, okay, well, there's been this many changes. So if we assume that this many changes happen over this amount of time, then this amount of time has passed between these two being able to interbreed. Yeah. So that's kind of how they kind of estimate the time between us sort of splitting off. And when it comes to chromosomes, so basically what I'm saying here is that we're genetically we're not incredibly dissimilar. Like we're fairly dissimilar, but we're not like as evolved as we'd like to think, potentially.
Right.
And when it comes to chromosomes, we have 46 chromosomes. We've got 23 pairs of chromosomes. And chimpanzees, orangutans, and gorillas have 48. So we're pretty close.
More than us.
Yeah, just one. Two more. One pair more.
They should share.
Can I ask a
Give us
very
some.
specific question that
Yeah.
might take too long to answer?
Go for it.
So if we have this shared common ancestor with, was it chimpanzees? What happens to mean that one branch has more chromosomes and the other branch doesn't have more chromosomes?
Very good. That's literally just what I was about to say. It is.
Hey.
Yeah, no, great. Great question. It's essentially in regards to humans and chimpanzees. We've got, so the naming convention for chromosomes is by number from 1 to 22 until you get to our 23rd chromosome, which are the sex chromosomes. So those are X and Y, essentially.
Okay.
So chromosome 2 for humans is actually a fusion between two chromosomes. So in chimps, they have sort of 24 pairs of chromosomes. We've got 23 pairs of chromosomes, and that's because one of our chromosome pair, like two of our chromosome pairs, essentially fused together to create one. So that's why we've got one less pair.
A pair rather than them gaining a pair.
Yeah, so we lost a pair rather than them gaining, but we didn't lose a pair. Specifically, they just, that pair, like those chromosomes just fused with another. So two became one.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're extra big.
I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, you could look up what chromosomes look like.
That number 2 looks pretty big. That's number 3.
That's a pretty big number 2,
Number
says
2
Luke.
is quite chunky.
So yeah, that is how sort of these chromosome differences work. That's essentially what you're seeing here is that humans and chimps are not so hugely dissimilar. Again, I'm not saying that humans and chimpanzees absolutely can 100% produce offspring. What I'm saying is that they might be able to.
Okay.
Yeah, and so there are other differences. So the genetic actual genome difference is not the only one. There's also transcriptional differences. Essentially, which genes are transcribed, how much they're expressed. Like basically, you can have the exact same genetic code as someone, but still have slight differences based on which genes are expressed to what extent, right? So.
I apologize for my cat. She's just so needy. She's just coming up and like bashing into my hand. Going,
She's being-
please stroke me.
She's being very, very friendly.
If you're listening on the
Yeah.
podcast app, please go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/SCI GUYS. Watch the video because Mouse is adorable.
Mouse is a cat, by the way.
Mouse is a cat.
It is very
not a
confusing.
mouse. Mouse the cat.
Come on, baby. I need to do some
Hello?
work. Please leave.
Hello, I'm Corey. This is my son, Chimp. He's not a chimp, as you can see, but he is in fact a boy.
He is a human being.
He is a
We just
human
call him
boy.
Chimp.
No, so there are other differences, and apparently the brain in this study they looked at the differences in sort of organs and how they transcribed the genes in said organs. They looked at kidneys, heart, liver, testes, but of all the ones that they looked at, the brain was the least dissimilar in terms of which genes were expressed, which is interesting because you think our brains are what we kind of consider as being the big difference between us and other animals.
Yeah.
But transcriptionally speaking, they're not as dissimilar as other organs. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the development is the same. There's differences in development. This was just looking at sort of gene expression and like sort of production of proteins, essentially.
Yeah.
And also there are some limitations in, and this was from a 2020 sort of review, there are some limitations in the results that we've got right now in terms of genetic differences or differences in the genomes of chimps and humans, because thus far we've really only looked at sort of reference genomes. So we've looked at kind of like amalgamation genomes that are built as an amalgamation, rather than looking at sort of a whole genome of multiple individuals. Do you know what I mean? So instead of looking at like genomes of populations, we've been looking at like what we've got. We've got basically a reference genome, which is a genome kind of that is supposed to be like the standard human genome, like the human like. But that obviously leaves out, because there are some genes that some people have that others don't. That leaves out quite a lot of potential similarities or differences in between chimps and humans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like essentially me comparing you What's going on here is I'm comparing you, Jamp, to one chimp, right? And I'm noting down all the differences. Slight difference in height, slightly less hairy face, slightly lighter skin, all of that sort of stuff, right? Slightly.
I like you talking about it. Yeah, I'd like to imagine you're talking about the chimp there. Slightly less hairy.
Like I've shaved the chimp and bleached his skin. Okay, like now. So it's like noting down all the differences between just the two of you. The difference between that and then looking at the difference between many people and many chimps, right? That's kind of what we're looking at here. So that's maybe the next sort of step, looking at what the difference between like all sort of more of the population is, and then it gives a better idea of like sort of what the actual differences are. So that's the sort of difference between humans and chimps, and I'm kind of introducing to you the idea that we might potentially be able to interbreed. There are some issues as well. You've obviously got to get the sperm in there. So there can be anatomical issues in terms of like, for example, you can't necessarily, it'd be very difficult to get a mouse to breed with, or not a mouse, let's go with
an elephant.
Yes, a mouse to breed with an elephant would be difficult because elephants are famously scared of mice.
They're terrified of them.
Absolutely horrified.
Won't go near them.
They'll trumpet their trunk and they'll stomp around. They just do not.
And that's the only obstacle there. So
Again, Hagrid's mum and dad. It's just a case of placing the mouse inside.
Oh.
So there are anatomical issues, and there's also issues in terms of like you got to think of it this way: sperm and egg, they've got to meet in order to for fertilization to occur, right? To bring the two like sort of bits of genome together.
Yeah.
And there is an issue there in that the sperm doesn't just like go anywhere, right? They're all heading the same direction because there's certain signals being sent from the anatomy of the female that lead the sperm to where they've got to go. And if those don't necessarily line up, then it's kind of difficult. Sure, of course, to get around that, you can beyond artificially inseminating, which can get around some anatomical issues. You can inject the egg with the sort of, you can basically inject the egg and like properly like IVF that stuff.
Direct.
Yeah. But we'll get to why you don't want to probably do that and why we haven't yet at some point. But theoretically, you absolutely could try to fertilize a chimpanzee egg with a human sperm or vice versa. But we'll get to why we probably haven't in a bit, right?
I don't think we necessarily need to, but
I can imagine.
I don't know. Look, there might be some people in the audience thinking, why haven't we created our... I love Chimp-mans or Humanzees. Yeah, Humanzees and Chimp-mans. Why have we not got them yet? Planet of the Apes, bro. Like, I'm surprised that a company has not thought, man, this might save us a lot of money in terms of like CGI if we just create Chimp-mans.
Yeah.
Damn ethics boards.
So, I want to tell you about a man named Ilya Ivanov.
Please.
You read the name beforehand this time, didn't you?
No, I did
Really?
not. Read it right off the bat. I just like doing. I speak Russian. I probably mispronounced that. I don't speak Russian. So Ilya was born August 1st, 1870, and died 20th of March, 1932. So he was a Soviet biologist, and he essentially figured out a way to artificially inseminate animals, specifically domestic animals. So, your horses and whatnot.
Oh, like how they do with cows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is a horse what is a cow if not a milk horse?
Yes. Well, exactly. That's what I always say.
True.
Moving on. Ilya Ivanov, as I said, was a biologist. He was big on inseminating domestic animals, not himself, but using
A turkey
artificial methods.
Artificial methods that he developed. Thank you very much. You saved me there. So he would study the sex organs of farm animals. Again, the more I hear about this guy, right, the more I think like, were you a serious scientist or did you just have like a thing? Did you just have a thing?
I need to study the sexual nature of animals for reasons.
I must study the... I don't know how.
Go on, try it again.
No, I don't want to try it again. I don't.
Go on.
You can't do a Russian while you smile. It's impossible.
That's true.
It
They
becomes
never
French.
smile.
It becomes French!
It does.
It does. I
want to suck your blood.
that's Dracula. It's a Dracula. That's a Dracula accent.
Transylvania.
That's a bit offensive.
I don't
Not
know
all
what that is.
vampires are from. Not all Draculas are from Transylvania.
Sylvania.
So, Ilya essentially figured out. Well, from his studies, he essentially realized that all you needed to do to impregnate something was get the sperm and the egg to come together.
Yeah.
That's how you impregnated them.
Yeah.
Hang on. He figured that out.
Well, he might not have been the first to figure that out, but he very well could have been. Honestly, I didn't look too deeply into it because there's a lot of other stuff that he did that is far more interesting.
Could you put them in a cocktail shaker and just shake them up?
Why don't you give that a go? Oh, you mean, I thought you just meant the sperm on its own. Yeah.
Yeah, both of them straight in, like an egg yolk with the egg, some sperm in there.
So these eggs are like just visible. They're like less than a millimeter. You can see them.
Chuck a few in. If there's room.
I think you've revolutionized IVF.
Thank
honestly. You just
I've made it significantly cheaper.
You pop into any bar, right? You're like, hello,
Pop down all bar
hello,
one. Be
hello,
like, I'm here
barman.
for
Can
my
you
IVF?
can I spaff into this cup? Can you shake it up with my wife's eggs, please? We're trying to conceive. No drinks for us. She might be pregnant soon. Anyway,
By all means, sir. We'll close the entire bar just for you.
let's just hope they wash those shakers properly. Otherwise, your White Russian is going to be very, very different to what you expect. Speaking of White Russians,
Bloody Mary.
Ilya, essentially, after he kind of figured out that you needed to make sperm and egg to come together, and that's all you needed for impregnation, he figured out a way to keep sperm kind of preserved for a little bit. Basically, really, if you preserve the sperm, you can take them out and introduce them to the egg without having to have an animal go inside and pop them in there themselves. He also found a way to sort of preserve and disinfect semen, and made like a sort of all size fits all method for inseminating pretty much all livestock, which was great. Additionally, could have just used a turkey baster. Essentially the same thing.
True.
So that's all you need. Done. In 1901, he founded the first center for artificial horse insemination. Artificial insemination of horses. The horses were purely natural.
Or were you inseminating other things with an entire horse?
There are very few things you can inseminate with a horse without exploding them. A blue whale, perhaps. I think that's a push, to be perfectly honest. So he wanted to hybridize. The reason he did this is because he wanted to artificially impregnate livestock and hybridize them with wild versions to make sort of more hardy ones or new breeds that were resistant to illnesses and could adapt to different situations. Right? Largely the same reasons that we would do the same thing with plants. Because bear in mind, we don't just hybridize animals; we hybridize plants all the time, and plants are honestly probably a bit better at hybridizing than animals are. Just it's one of their many talents.
Yeah.
So he made a Z-donk, which is a zebra-donkey hybrid. He made a Zubron, which is a European bison crossed with a cow. And then he combined rice. He combined rats, mice, guinea pigs, rabbits with different combinations of those. And he said that it might even be possible in 1910. It might even be possible to create hybrids between humans and their closest living relatives.
Ooh.
Yeah. So at this point, he basically had this idea quite a while before. He was big on the hybridizing different animals. And unfortunately, he didn't leave it at just the theoretical. So
They never do they?
no, they don't. No.
Why?
Well,
They should just stop.
well.
Just stop.
So I'll tell you what
Stop
happened.
yourself.
I'll tell you what happened. There are a number of reasons that people have given for this. All of them rather silly. Some of them say, oh, the reasons that he gave were fake ones because he just wanted to do it. Fair enough. Some of the other reasons are saying he wanted to create human-ape hybrids. Well, the Soviets wanted to create human-ape hybrids to create a man-ape army.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them said that the Bolsheviks, who were in
Likely.
power at the time, wanted to destroy the belief in God, and a way of doing that would be to create a human chimp hybrid, which would prove that God doesn't exist. Which
It wouldn't be in the image of God, that's for sure.
which, like, yeah, if you want to absolutely prove to everyone that God doesn't exist, make a man-ape. Do it. You do it.
I still don't get how that.
That doesn't prove
Just because it's an
anything.
abomination, that's why God doesn't exist.
Well, no,
God
and
would never let this happen.
you got to remember that at the time. So this was at the time. There was sort of Darwinism was, essentially, was a massive threat to Christianity. It was a massive threat to religion.
Yeah.
And if you could prove Darwinism correct, you'd think that you could kind of shake the foundations of religion. Obviously, at this point, we've basically proven the theory of evolution. Evolution is a thing, and oh boy, religion's still going. So that one was they were wrong on that one. Look, the thing is that religion will keep going regardless of what you say, right?
This is
Because
true.
and this isn't like a hit at religion. Religions generally operate without the need for proof or evidence. That's just how they work. So
Who needs it anyway?
no, I mean, like, I'm not trying to have a go at anyone that's religious. I just mean that, like, you can basically have whatever proof you want.
Yeah.
You could disprove any religion you want, but that won't stop people from believing, because it's not based on truth. It's
Yeah.
based on faith, which it's just how they're set up. So anyway, Ivanov was funded by the Soviets to produce human ape hybrids in the 1920s. Made papers. People were talking about it all the time. And I'll basically tell you what happened. It's a very, thankfully, short story. He basically went to Africa to get some apes. He got a few different ones. This is, okay, right. Picture this, right? A light goes off in a new house, right? And you're not sure, you get to the shop and you realize, oh, I forgot to check which white light bulbs I need.
Mm-hmm.
What do? You don't want to have to go back to the shop, so you just pick up a couple different light bulbs, let's say.
Try different.
Let's see which one fits.
Guess.
Yeah.
A couple guesses.
He did that, but instead of using light bulbs, he had apes. He just got a bunch of different kinds of... He got some orangutans, he got some gorillas, he got some chimps. At this point, he wasn't sure which the absolute closest relative was. So he just got a few to try him out.
You could do that. He did do that.
He did do that. He got a few.
Yeah.
So he was on the way to Africa. First, he stopped in Paris. The Pasteur Institute, named for Louis Pasteur, I assume, supported him, and said they'd give him access to chimps at the primate center they had in Guinea, which was owned by France at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got to Guinea and he realized that none of the chimps that were there were old enough to breed, which just, what a shame. What a bloody shame. None of these chimps are old enough. And he would never go below the age of consent. That's where he
That's
draws
his
the
line.
line.
That's his line.
That's where he draws the
Okay,
line.
well, you know what? At least he has a line.
I mean, that's a good line to have.
It's somewhere.
I mean, if you don't have that line, you're done. Man-apes, fine. Anything else?
Yeah.
No. Seriously, though, no, they were too young. They were too young to breed, just sort of biologically speaking. And then he had to go back later on to capture some of his own chimps to make man babies with. So he spent some time in Paris over the summer before he went back to Africa. And he was while he was there, he was working on ways to capture chimps and then sort of chill them out so that you could kind of basically take them away and use them for your experiments. And apparently, someone that he was working with was grafting ape testicles onto rich men. We've spoken
To
about
make
this
them
before.
like more potent.
Yeah, we've spoken about this before. Definitely.
Where was he grafting them on? Was he grafting them on the testicles, or were they grafting on like the arm so that they're like a source of testosterone?
Gosh, I don't remember. We definitely spoke about this in another episode.
Sounds familiar.
It does, doesn't it? Can't remember which one. Probably one about hybrids, chimeras. Maybe it was a bonus episode.
Might have been that.
Yeah, I would go onto patreon.com/SCI Guys and check out all of our bonus episodes just to find out which
See if
one it
there's
is.
any
Probably there
episodes
somewhere.
about monkey testicles. If that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will.
Didn't we do the science of testicles? Would that be it?
We did do that.
I don't think
yeah.
it was the signs of testicles, though. I think it was a science of some kind of hybrid, some kind of chimera, something like
Was
that.
it Dolly
it
the
might have
sheep?
been that episode. It's called the science of testicles, I think. So just look for that.
Look for the listen to the science of testicles. Sure,
It's a bonus episode. Go watch it.
more testicles for you. So, so that's why we spent his summer. Instead of inseminating chimps, he had to spend his summer grafting chimp testicles or gorilla testicles onto men. Ugh, God. Do you ever
Homework.
don't you just hate when you plan a whole summer of making chimps pregnant and instead you gotta cut open some men and put gorilla balls in them? Ugh, just not the same. So
It's not.
Much better things I could be doing right now.
So that summer, he also, he as almost you could say as a consolation prize, for his previous plans, he took a female ovary, and he found a chimp called Nora, and he popped the female ovary into her, and he then inseminated Nora with human sperm. I've heard people say that it was his own sperm. I don't know that. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it could be.
He has easiest access to
I
it.
mean, it is the easiest access, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to use anyone's sperm to make a chimp baby, you'd want it to be your own chimp son or chimp daughter.
I don't know if I would. That would be too weird, though. Like, actually.
I mean, I feel like if you're going to do that, you have to. Like, you need to bear the brunt of that decision, right?
Oh, yeah.
You can't
Well,
just.
I think the chimp baby is going to bear the brunt of that decision. But
So
sure.
some humans got to live with the fact that they have a chimp baby. And I think it's only right if you do it yourself.
Yeah, if you gotta make
So I'll subject myself to that rather than someone else.
if you gotta make a chimp baby, you gotta deal with the chimp consequences, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that he made loads of headlines for that. I don't think it necessarily worked. It didn't work. And so then he went to Guinea that November. And it's what I've got here is it said with considerable difficulty, eventually inseminated 3 chimps. So he captured some chimps and then worked real hard and inseminated them. And then he was, while waiting for the results of that, he was also thinking, oh, what if we do the other way around by getting some women and popping some chimp sperm in them?
Oh, what?
So now the 3 chimps that he had inseminated, none of them conceived. I think a couple of them died on a journey back from Guinea. I think that was an issue. So I think only one of them ended up surviving, and that one it didn't reach pregnancy, unfortunately. And there were some women, so he got some. He was apparently, this is what I've read. Again, the truth around this is kind of murky.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look this up, you'll probably hear, oh, this was uncovered in secret Soviet documents, and no one was talking about it. No, we didn't know about it for 60 years, but actually in the 20s, it was in the news, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was in the news in the 20s. However, it just came back into the news like in the 90s again because Soviet stuff was released and people were talking about it again.
Okay.
So it's very difficult to find the actual fact. So apparently, initially, he wanted to essentially not tell the women what he was doing to them and just say, this is a fertility experiment about fertility, so we're going to make you all pregnant. And just not mention the child they were carrying. Imagine being someone, right?
And they were like, oh, it worked. I'm pregnant.
And then giving birth to a baby and it being a little
Giving
chimpan
birth to a
man,
chimp.
a chimpan boy, yeah.
Chimpan baby.
Yeah.
I don't feel like they were thinking that far ahead.
No, absolutely
I
not.
don't think they were thinking about the fact that something actually might come out and it's a little chimpanzee person. Man, that's so weird.
Yeah. So he ended up getting consent for them to do it. And so some women consented to doing it, which, okay.
Equally weird. Were they being paid?
Potentially. Probably, actually. I mean, would you do it without being paid? Maybe if you had a fetish or something. Right? Oh, that's the only way.
Maybe. I can't imagine having a fetish for having a tiny little chimp baby, but maybe someone.
I'm going to be honest. I feel like a chimp baby fetish is one of the least weird fetishes I've heard of.
No, I don't think that's
Pretty
true.
weird, but you know.
What's a weirder fetish than wanting to successfully birth from your own womb a half chimp, half human baby? Please give me a weirder fetish than that.
Oh, there are lots of them.
But are they weirder than that? That's such a specific kink.
I mean, it's probably not necessarily like a very specific thing. It could be a part of like, I don't know, a general, chimp pregnancy kink. If you're a furry and you've got a pregnancy kink, maybe you'd get your rocks off on having a little chimp baby in you.
I think some furries are going to find that very insulting, Corey.
Good.
Okay, I'm sorry. I like the furry community.
He's just hypothesizing.
I'm not. This is not meant to be a comment on all furries. It's simply
Most of them.
Yeah. No. We're not. We don't make fun of furries on this podcast.
You
We
nearly
like
said
furries.
yes.
This is
Yeah,
no.
no,
This
no,
is
we
a
do, we
pro.
do.
This is a
do
pro
like
furry
furries.
podcast. It's a
We don't
PFP.
shame.
No, we love furries. Love them so much. This is just a hypothetical situation wherein a hypothetical furry has a pregnancy kink and wants a little chimp baby. I'm just saying I have seen weirder stuff online. Anyway.
And it's just a baby, isn't it? It happens to be half chimp baby, but baby. It's nice. It's cute.
It didn't ask to be born.
He's like everyone else. He just happens to be half chimp. Stop being mean to him.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's like,
Chimp
wow,
rights.
that baby is half chimp. And it's a baby, and that's lovely.
I feel like you're a very glass half empty kind of person. You're always focusing on him being half chimp, but you never focus on him being half human.
Wow, why is being half chimp a negative thing?
I don't know, champ. Why don't you make a half chimp baby and we'll find out.
Please.
He'll be the best half chimp baby ever.
I mean, he'll be 3/4 chimp.
Oh, that was really rude.
I can just leave.
Wait, so is the end of this story that the half chimp baby that was eventually created is now the podcast on the podcast side, guys?
Yeah, the end is I announced that I've this whole time have had a half baby chimp. Oh wait,
No,
a half chimp
you are
baby.
it. You're it. That's how you're having a 3/4
I
chimp
am the
baby. Is
bird.
that you're already half chimp.
Yeah, look, please, like, you kind of condescending tone there. He's a half chimp man. He's not necessarily
Okay,
good at
I'm
maths. Okay,
Yeah.
be a little bit more respect.
I have to do that thing where it's got the rings and the little, and I have to move them over.
Now, if I have this many bananas and I take
Less bananas.
The worst outcome, less bananas. Spoken like a true half chimp, half human there, champ.
So yeah, 5 women, as I said, volunteered. And they got hold of some apes. It never worked out. There was one ape left called there was one ape left called Tarzan, who was a 26-year-old orangutan. At least he was 26. Good age. He's old enough to decide to do that for himself. But
Hang on,
You
the
can rent a
chimp?
car.
no. So remember he did it with a bunch of different sort of apes. So a bunch of the apes that he had ended up dying. I think through poor conditions, and he was only left with one, Tarzan, the 26-year-old orangutan.
But you said that Tarzan was old enough to decide to do that for himself, which very much assumes that Tarzan's able to understand the situation he's in.
Orangutans look very wise, so I mean, I'd assume that he can.
Yeah, but they're not getting Tarzan to mate with the human woman. I assume they're just getting some sperm from Tarzan, however they're doing that. And then they're taking that sperm away from Tarzan, and you're saying that Tarzan has consented to this because he's 26.
Consenting to be a father. Yeah.
Yeah. No. What's happening?
Be a father, Luke. Like he's probably gonna have to pay child support or something. I don't know.
Well, the movie royalty checks will do it.
They really flipped that story around. Like initially it was a story about an
Orangutan giving his sperm up, and it somehow turned into
that's
a man in the forest.
Like that's how movie studios do it, bro. I don't know there.
Hollywoodification of the Tarzan story. It's actually a story about a 26-year-old captive orangutan being masturbated and having his sperm stolen.
Some people have a go at us for making too light of the science, but this is incredibly silly. I think we've been very serious considering the subject matter. No, so initially, essentially, Tarzan ended up dying. He had a brain hemorrhage, and Ivanov said the orang has died. We are looking for a replacement. And he had a woman lined up to receive Tarzan's sperm. And so it was all kind of still in place. But in 1930, the chimps arrived in 1930. But there was essentially a whole thing going on there politically, wherein Ivanov was exiled to Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Because that's what there was a lot of scientists being exiled. You'll hear stories which say Ivanov was exiled for, because the government was like, we don't like your experiments that we've been paying you to do. Go to Kazakhstan. But no, he was exiled, but then he was released the next year, but then he died shortly afterwards. So if he'd lived a little longer, we would have the answer to the Humanzee question. But we don't as of yet. I suppose it would be a chimpan man actually. So yeah, it would have been a chimpan man. No, so we don't have an answer to the question. He ended up basically the experiment kind of petered out, fell apart. He was exiled, then he came back and died before he could get any further. Which, not a bad thing. I don't think. It's probably good that we haven't necessarily tried to create a chimpan man. What we have done though is created monkey human hybrids. Essentially, they created there's these scientists in 2019. They created this monkey human hybrid. It only survived for like 14 days. You've got to kill it. You've got to kill it after 14 days because after 14 days, the central nervous system will start to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And you're basically the idea is you do not, if you're creating a human hybrid, which you have to do in China, by the way, because there are strict laws pretty much everywhere else. These are Spanish scientists working in China. You've got to kill the embryo after 14 days so that you don't have any human animal hybrids with the central nervous system that you got to deal with.
Well, out of interest, if we are creating human animal hybrids and we are always killing them before a certain amount of time, and then why?
So the reason that they're doing this is they're creating this hybrid so that they can create animals. They can make animals that can create human organs for transplants. But the idea is that they essentially deactivated the genes that controlled organ growth. And the whole idea was that it's never going to grow like a sort of brain or be conscious anyway. So it's not going to be an issue. So the idea,
why does it need to be a hybrid? Why can't they just do that with human DNA?
Because they're going to be, I think they're essentially wanting to grow them in animals and then use them as the...
Oh.
Yeah. I've not fully looked into this, but I mean, it might be a topic for a future episode. But yeah, that's the story. I just thought it was I heard about human-ape hybrids. I was very intrigued and disgusted when I found out what was going on.
I feel like this whole episode's been a fever dream.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like it.
Is any of this real?
Don't feel
uncomfortable.
I mean, this is the thing. The issue is the ethics of it, right?
Yeah.
There's this whole thing where we're not really allowed to create these kind of hybrids because if you think about it, how awful would it be to, just for the name of science, create a being with potentially human level consciousness that is the only member of its own species, can't reproduce, and exists solely to be studied, and also is kind of an abomination. It is like a mix of human and chimp. Like it's
a disgrace against God.
Yeah, I mean it's a not very nice thing to do to a potentially conscious living being. So maybe don't make any chimpan mans anytime soon.
Doesn't get the SCI GUYS seal of approval.
It does not.
No, sir.
No chimpan mans from us. No Humanzees.
No.
An orangutan though.
That's on the table.
I mean, we've got one with us right here.
I'm half chimp, you're half orangutan. We've come full circle to the first joke we made at the top of the show.
We have, haven't
the
we?
The whole episode was about us.
That's it.
Half orangutan, half chimpanzee.
And this is how I decided to tell you both. So, what time is it now? What is the time is it now for?
Well, you didn't mean that. It's the quickfire quiz.
It is the quickfire quiz.
Yay, dun 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 dun.
So I will ask one question between the two of you. It is one question only, and I have to finish asking the question before you can answer. The first person to buzz in with the correct answer wins. What do they win, Champ?
Absolutely zilch.
No, that's right. Absolutely nothing. Except for, and this is a really good one, the opportunity to be the father of a man-chimp hybrid.
Oh, I can't wait to not even try an answer.
How will I be my own father?
Life will find a way. So, Luke, what is your buzzer? That's offensive. Jamp, what is
Mine
your...
was going to be very similar. The one time I can make a monkey noise.
Make a bigger monkey noise, like.
Ah!
Yeah, there we go.
Wow. Again, both of you being very insensitive to our chimp listeners.
I'm half chimp, thank you.
Oh, that's fair. That's true. You're half chimp. I
Thank
apologize, Jamp.
I'm
That's why
half
your name is
orangutan.
Jamp. It's like
Yeah, MP.
it's a James Chimp
The
hybrid.
MP on the end. Yeah. James Chimp. Champ.
So, my question for you both is: how many chromosomes do humans have? Do
That was incredible, Jam.
Thank you very much.
I'm really starting to believe this whole chimp thing.
I have 23. Wait, no, the 46 in total, but 23 pairs. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Well done. I don't.
Chimps don't clap.
I don't think there's much that I can add to that. Thank you for putting up with this episode, everyone that is listening and watching.
Sorry for my chimp wailing. Just the chimp
My
half. It
favourite
just
bit was
comes out
when I
sometimes.
accident-
Oh, God. Look, we'll be back to more serious topics at some point soon, potentially. This is really, I don't know about you guys. I feel like this was very much a bonus episode type of vibe, don't you think?
It did have that
Yeah.
vibe.
It did have a bonus episode feeling. So if
Yeah.
you...
Like all the normal inhibitions we have completely off.
It just dissolves into screaming by the end.
Just go.
I accidentally accused Hagrid's dad of spaffing in a dolphin.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of weird Harry Potter sex stuff in the bonus episodes, which is,
Yeah, weird.
Is there?
I feel like there is.
I feel like we get there
Okay.
somehow.
I don't know how. Harry Potter comes up more than you'd expect for just a science podcast. So, yeah, I mean, look, if you enjoyed this episode, you'll probably enjoy our bonus episode, which you can find over on Patreon, patreon.com/SCI GUYS. New one every single month. Really great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, I genuinely think we have to go. I think it's the end of the episode. But before we go, we would like to thank all of our patrons with a very special thank you to executive producers Ashley Muller and Anani May. And thank you for watching. You can find the full references for this episode in the description. Subscribe for new episodes every Sunday. And why not leave us a nice wee comment? You can support the pod at patreon.com/SciGuys. Guys, or you can find and contact us at SciGuysPod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or SciGuys on TikTok too. Or you can send us an email at SciGuysPod@gmail.com.
That's SciGuysPod@gmail.com.
SciGuysPod.
At gmail.com. You can follow me at NotCorey everywhere.
You can follow me at Champion everywhere.
You can follow me at Luke Cupforth everywhere.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.